I'm Sienna. I'm the kid.
I'm Sarah. I'm the mom.
This is Queer Kid Straight Mom.
Let's talk. Welcome back to Queer Kid Straight Mom. This week, we're talking about Stranger Things. Spoilers will be coming, so if you haven't watched the whole thing yet, finish and then listen to this episode. So, Sienna, I guess let's start with what did you think of the finale? Because I have seen a lot of mixed opinions.
So I feel like it was a solid B. Like, it was okay. I think part of why people are so disappointed in it is because the rest of the show was consistently really, really good and fresh and interesting and surprising. And the ending was just kind of like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, a little bit. I read a review in The Guardian that I thought was particularly interesting. And honestly, I think that it was a review basically of what you said, because I honestly can't tell you it was like a good or bad review. It was just sort of like, okay, I just was entertained by this. Then again, what was my most memorable moment of the finale? Probably the moment I glanced at a clock and realized it still had 30 minutes to go.
Well, yeah, okay, here's the thing is I was like, ooh, big battle against Vecna. Like, surely there's going to be a twist after this, right? And there was no twist.
There was no twist. And then it just, quote, the endings piling up on top of each other so extravagantly that the actual meat of the episode became a distant memory.
Yeah.
And then they also said, but as punishing as it was for the diehards, it felt earned. So I don't know. It's kind of a mixed, it wrapped things up, I guess.
Well, I think the issue is that it actually wrapped things up too neatly. Everything was very like checkbox, tick, tidy, nice.
Here's how everybody's going to turn out okay. Even though she isn't, maybe Elle is.
Yeah, it irks me because it was definitely a horror show for the first few seasons. And there were some horror elements and moments in this last season, but that was not a horror ending at all. And that bothers me. I mean, there was really no consequence at all other than what happens to Elle, except that then they are like, but maybe it didn't happen.
That's an interesting point because a lot of horror movies, I actually do want to wrap up like, oh, okay, everyone's safe and everyone's going to be just fine. But a lot of times there's like something like chilling at the end.
Yeah, there's something that leaves you like something's still not quite right. Or there's a cost, right? Maybe everyone makes it out, but there's still a cost. And it just felt like basically ever since Hopper got not deaded and turned out to be alive in season 4, it feels like there really haven't been any moments where they've been willing to commit to anything really devastating.
That's true. Nobody else.
Other than Eddie, which was obviously sad, but
yeah, for him and Bob both, they were sort of like the characters that were introduced to that season to be killed.
And Alexei, the Russian guy.
Oh, right. Oh, I forgot about Alexei. That was sad.
Yeah, no, that was sad. And I mean, Bob dying was also sad, right?
Yeah. They were all really sad, but they were characters that were like, here is this character who's not one of the main group, and so we're willing to get rid of this one.
And I'm not saying that the main group all, something terrible has to happen to someone, but it just feels like everyone, it's a weird thing to say given how much all the characters went through, but it feels like they came out of it unscathed.
Okay, so then speaking of the characters and they're sort of resolving things, Will, you guys were saying that episode where he comes out was like the lowest rated episode ever for Stranger Things.
Apparently that was what KJ said. Like, I haven't seen that specifically myself, but I believe him.
So there was a lot of backlash. I mean, I saw little comments here and there, like, why did they have to make a big deal out of it? Why can't he just be gay and they don't make a big deal out of it?
Which this is so funny to me because, like, did they know that people were really homophobic in the 80s? That legitimately, you couldn't just be gay, that it was, like, legitimately a thing where, I'm gonna have to tell the people in my life this and, like, I'm probably going to lose some of them. I mean, that's still how people feel today. And we've gotten to a point where some people don't necessarily feel the need to make a big statement about that because they can sort of just have their own thing going on. But it's weird to think that in that time period that wouldn't spark any kind of conversation or that wouldn't be a source of stress for him.
Right. I mean, like looking back to even the early 90s, even famous people that everybody liked, like nobody confirmed that they were gay.
Yeah.
Like it was a big deal when Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show. Elton John, like nobody openly said that Elton John was gay in the early 90s. Like everybody like kind of figured, but like it wasn't like a secret, but it wasn't
Like,
like nobody was publicly gay.
I think David Bowie came out as bisexual and then ended up like walking it back because his managers were worried about how it would impact his career.
Yeah, it was so the 80s like definitely wasn't a, oh, by the way, I'm gay. Oh, okay. That would have been kind of a big thing. And I would guess because like a lot of media that we've talked about on this show, being in the closet sort of ends up very metaphorically represented in like a thing that is tormenting you, right?
Mhm.
The monster that won't let you rest, that's
Mhm.
always in the shadows. And so there's this relief to coming out, to finally being able to tell people, to accepting that part of yourself. I thought as like a metaphor, it was really beautifully done how from that first episode he was hiding, like literally hiding, right? And then even after he was okay, he was safe. There was just always this, like, I don't what
Well, it's like Vecna's voice in the 4th season where he's like this voice in your head playing off all your worst fears.
and like even those little things he was coughing up. You know, all of the little sluggy things
Yeah.
like kept forming that big creature that killed what's his name? Billy. Oh, Billy. Billy's another one. In the mall. Was that just a giant Demogorgon?
No, it was like a projection of the Mind Flayer, like a small Mind Flayer,
Okay.
a baby mind.
So the little like pieces of mini mind flayer that he kept coughing up. It was like he just couldn't like get it out of his system, right?
Mhm.
It's always there. So I thought that was really nicely done. And so that makes sense that of course it's a huge element of the character of the storyline that he can't conquer that demon until he accepts who he is. And
Right.
is okay with it.
Yeah, that's sort of the catalyst for him, becoming a sorcerer.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I thought that all came together really nicely.
The horror, so many horror movies is like, that's, you can't keep hiding from the thing,
Mhm.
right? You have to face it eventually. Oh, this was another thing I just saw. So this morning I saw, I guess there's some controversy in Saturday Night Live and Wolfhard was doing his monologue. And I guess he said a couple of things making fun of Will's coming out scene. I don't remember how he said it, but it was something about like how long the scene was,
Mhm.
like that people thought was kind of mocking it. And so then I was like kind of following some leads on that. And a lot of people did think like it could have just been a sweet moment between him and his mom. And it didn't need to be a press conference with everybody there. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I do get it, but
I mean, because from what you were saying, like, it makes sense that like that is something you don't know if any of your friends are
Yeah.
going to be okay with. And it probably is a lot easier to just rip the Band-Aid off all
Yeah.
at once, right?
and I do get feeling like it's long, right? The entire episode is long. It probably could have been cut down a little bit. It probably could have been redistributed to other moments. There are other moments that I would have liked to see fleshed out more. But fundamentally, when it comes down to it, like, yeah, some people do just want to sit down in front of everybody and be like, guys, I'm gay and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, that just feels like you're judging that approach.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has to come up with a critique, right? So
Mhm.
somebody's going to have a problem with everything. Do you think it's unrealistic that everybody took it so well? Or that nobody started acting really weird around him? Or was there just not really time for it to be a plot point that anybody would act weird around him so they couldn't really consider that as an option?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily realistic. I think statistically, someone in that group is going to be weird. Like, there are plenty of people who aren't like even, raging homophobes who are still like a little bit thrown. But also simultaneously, the fact that it was so late in the season means that you don't have really time to resolve any kind of conflict you set up there.
Right.
And B, that's not what the show was trying to do, I think. Ultimately, I mean, it's kind of cheesy, and again, it fits into that, like, everything is just, like, so happy, rainbows, powers of friendship, like, whatever, but that it's not trying to be a show about, like, how to deal with homophobia.
Yeah.
It's trying to be a show about the power of friendship.
Yeah. I guess when I say, did that seem unrealistic? Like there are a lot of things in Stranger Things that are not realistic because it's a sci-fi horror kind of thing, right?
Well, it's and
Of course it's not realistic.
I mean, I think a legitimate critique would be that, yes, they drew this whole thing out. Really, and this is another thing, people are like, it came out of nowhere. I mean, they've been dropping hints about him being queer since literally season 1.
Yeah.
But the way that they timed the whole thing, it does sort of send a message that I think is kind of disingenuous, perhaps, to queer viewers that you come out and you step into your power and all of your fear vanishes and everything's great and you're so powerful. And that's not true.
Yeah, Robin might have been like a better representation of that, right? Being empowered, but not becoming all powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's the pacing thing, right? That we do get this really sweet coming out scene with Robin, and then we also get to see how that manifests in her everyday life and with other people. And, she's not coming out to everybody, but just like being somewhat out has made her feel a lot more confident about herself. So I do think that's a little bit more balanced. Like I said, there are lots of little ideas I think that were sprinkled through this last season that could have been expanded into really interesting things. And there was just so much happening that I know they didn't get that chance to expand. And so that might be one of them. This idea that, I don't object to the storyline that Will becomes powerful as he learns to accept himself. But there could have been a little bit more nuance, maybe, and a little bit more care given to making that like a well-rounded story as opposed to a relatively one-dimensional come out, yay, happy smiles.
It's interesting looking back from the perspective now that the whole thing is over. Like all of the little side stories and complicating things. Maybe they should have spent more time developing some of the core things than like expanding in so many differences along the way.
And I mean, we like the little fun side plots, but I think what's really important is to make sure that they all do link back to your central storylines and that they're all sort of supporting the 2 or 3 really important ideas that you want to convey. And I do think there was kind of too much happening for that necessarily to get across.
Yeah, and probably by the time they really realize, oh, this is how we want this to develop, your little kids are all grown ups and like you gotta like wrap it up.
Yeah.
So they kind of ran out of time probably.
Well, and
on some
part of it
those
had to
things.
do with the pandemic and then the SAG-AFTRA
Yeah.
strikes, that those both delayed filming and production. And so probably their timeline was a little bit not where it was supposed to be.
Yeah. I guess that's the danger of a show with kids that age, is you really do have a limited time frame. If anything slows it down, it's not like you can just put on a little makeup and look 3 years younger. Interesting. Yeah, I think that, in those last battle scenes sort of against that giant spider, the Mind Flayer, I guess. Yeah, it seemed really unlikely that everybody survived that.
Right?
So it was a weird thing where like you're going into it and you have this dread in the pit of your stomach because you're like, there's no way everybody survives this. Who's going to die? And then like nobody dies and you're so relieved. But at the same time, it feels a little bit empty.
Yeah.
Like, well, now I sort of believe it less, which, just probably takes you out of the moment a little bit.
And then even the one character, 11, dying, then they're pulling their punches.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe they want to keep their options open for spinoffs because, it's what it all comes down to eventually, right?
Another one, right? Kali.
Honestly, like, I didn't want her there because I felt like she was causing problems. Don't make Elle die.
But I did like that, and the way that they handled that. Like, I do like the shift that she listens to Hopper talking to Elle and like how he's like created this whole life for her, and she realizes, oh, this is not. I'm trying to not just save the world from the risk of Elle still being out there, but also I'm projecting my own suffering and my own fear that I can never have a real life onto her. And she has all of these people who are envisioning this other life for her, and maybe that's a possibility. Like, I love that.
Yeah, they should have shown that as a real moment that happened, not as like this potential fictional thing that maybe Mike just came up with. Right. Like at that point, if everybody's going to survive anyway, have her have that epiphany and Elle lives.
Yeah.
Come on. So flawed for sure, but it was entertaining. And the series overall, like, we got a lot of entertainment out of. And I think there were some really good messages about friendship and self-confidence and, nerds and misfits and all of that stuff, like finding a family in each other.
However, I do have one major criticism that, interestingly enough, I haven't really seen brought up, but I feel like maybe was just a massively missed thing to consider. Did no one think about the fact that effete man going around and kidnapping children and using them to push his world-changing agenda via uncomfortably penetrative monsters and talking about how malleable children's minds are? Did no one think that was maybe not a good idea?
Yeah, maybe. What did you refer to him as? A what man?
Effete man.
What does that mean?
Just like
Like effeminate?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that was a
I think so.
shorting.
I mean,
for that.
maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe
Maybe
you
you
made
made
up
it
a new
up. I mean, it's definitely a real word. Maybe I'm misusing a real word. If that's not a real word, guys, forgive me and just pretend I said effeminate.
Or feel free to start using it as that, and it'll be a new thing. Okay, yeah. So I did not know that. Did not occur to me, but now that you say it, yeah, that's kind of a horrifying thing to plant in people's minds. If you're going to use things metaphorically in your sci-fi series, then you probably need to be careful of the ways
You
that
need
people
to
might
consider
interpret.
all angles of the metaphor, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily something I would have picked up on in, say, season 4, but all of a sudden, I feel like season 5, we leaned really hard into the, like, creepy penetrative mouth thingies, and the children's minds are so malleable.
Yeah, good point. That is kind of creepy to think about where people could take that in their
Mhm.
minds. Maybe didn't think that one totally through.
It's like how well, there were a couple of times when they made Dungeons and Dragons references, and I'm like, wow, have they gotten rid of everyone in the writer's room who actually ever played D&D? Because that's not a thing in D&D. That's not a real thing. That's not how that works.
Which obviously I and a lot of other people watching would not pick up on, but I would think that a lot of people got into the show because they like D&D.
And vice versa, probably some people got into D&D because of the show. And I mean, I think most of the show holds up pretty well. Like, most of the D&D references do function. But yeah, all of a sudden, that, like, especially last scene where they're all playing D&D in in Mike's basement, it's like reading fan fiction where someone, like, has never had sex before and they're trying to describe having sex.
Like, whoever wrote that has never played D&D.
Yeah.
Seems like you would want to be careful with that in that particular show. Not perfect execution. Those are our thoughts on the end of Stranger Things. I guess we're sticking with the pop culture direction for our next episode because, like, the world is just so depressing right now. Let's just stay in fantasy land
Well,
a
and
few more weeks.
like, let's be real. You have heard us talk about how stupid Trump is. You have heard us talk about how terrible J.K. Rowling is. You have heard us talk about all the anti-trans bills. It's all still happening. There's not that much more to say.
That's true. So we might as well bring some levity to the table, right? I am sure everybody has heard of Heated Rivalry. So we are watching it, and that is our next topic. So watch it if you haven't, although I think it's
Not if you're under 18.
not if
maybe.
you're under 18. We are not pushing people who are under 18 to watch this show because it does have mature content. So
Or like if you just don't like watching people have sex, that might not be your
Right.
thing.
if it doesn't bother you and you have heard a lot about it and you want to check it out and you're of age,
That is entertaining. I have started watching several episodes and it is entertaining.
and there are just like a lot of things that I've seen come up and that have come up in conversation that I'm really interested in diving into because it has been such a big hit among so many different demographics that,
Women. The straight women love it.
that there's a lot to talk about. Hope everybody's doing well, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
If you found this episode interesting, informative, amusing, please review and follow us on your podcasting platform of choice. Getting those reviews and follows really helps us show up more in the algorithm and be able to reach more people to help them. You can find us on social media, Instagram, and Threads at queerkid.straightmom, Blue Sky at qksm.bsky.social, and Facebook at Queer Kid Straight Mom. We are no longer on Twitter.